Hi Rainbows, I'm Kirsty from RockinRainbowDigital. Today I'm going to tell you about how I got here, how RockinRainbowDigital was created. So, if we go way back, I was always a creative child. I was chopping and changing from what I wanted to do with my future. Everyone would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would change every week from a plate maker, mosaics, wrestler, midwife, astronomer, artist. It went through a whole range of things, most that I knew nothing about, but I just thought they would be an interesting idea. So fast forward to school, I did art at a higher level. That was really fun for me. We did a jewellery making project, which I used foam and wire, I think. And then I chose to do advanced higher art because I had enjoyed it so much and my teacher was really good, which is always half the battle. And I think I ended up getting a C or something like that, but I really wanted to leave school in 5th year. So I applied for things such as midwifery courses, astronomy, and there was probably something else in there as well. But I didn't get the grades I wanted at school, so I stayed on to 6th year. And so that was where I done advanced higher art, was in 6th year. So 4th and 5th year hires, I think, I don't actually remember, maybe, oh, it's a long time ago, it's terrible, I'm showing my age. I think standard grades in Scotland were probably 3rd year and maybe 4th year. Hires was 5th year. I can't really remember, I'm sorry. Anyway, at one point I did advanced higher art and I enjoyed it. And I finally left school in 6th year and I applied again to a couple of different courses, but I ended up going to Dundee University to study in a new course that they had just decided to make, and I don't think it exists anymore for good reason. It was Art, Philosophy and Contemporary Practices. So yes, very airy-fairy. So it wasn't your traditional art. I was doing a mix of modern art and philosophy, learning about sort of subjectiveness and the beauty of art, as well as art history. So I was quite good at the actual essays and the thinking part of it. The philosophy and the art history was good, but my marks were very bad on the actual practical art side because they wanted you to be in the studio every day from like 9 to 5, and I felt like that wasn't what I was at uni for. So I didn't really show up a lot in the studio time because it was like you had to be there on your own time. You weren't getting lessons or anything. I showed up for all the seminars, but I wasn't in the studio all day. I did a lot of work from my flat, so it's as if it wasn't counted. They wanted to see me there, they wanted to see the prep, they wanted to ask me about it, but if I wasn't there then they just assumed that I wasn't doing it, which was kind of wrong. I didn't do as much work as I should have, but I still did some work and I gave them the projects and I handed in stuff that I was proud of, and I thought that it was worked on to a good extent, but they disagreed. So after 2 years, they'd said I'd failed that part of the course and I could either spend the summer doing something to make up for it and try and regain a good grade, or I could leave. So I decided to leave. So I moved back home, back to Glasgow with my parents, and that's not what I wanted to do, but I didn't feel like I had much of a choice at that point. I didn't want to spend my summer redoing a course that had not been very enjoyable for me. I felt a bit disheartened with art and everything creative. So I decided to go back to college, or actually to go to college. I'd been to university and now I was going to college, so kind of back to front. So I was 20, started college, did my HNC and my HND in computing and web development. I got best student, thank you very much, because I put in a lot of effort, because I'd realised that in uni I didn't put as much effort in as I should have. And also the rest of the class in college were sort of 16 to 18-year-olds who just wanted to have a laugh, and they weren't really too bothered. So that's why I think I then went to university straight into third year to do my degree course or degree year, and I ended up with a BA in computing web development, which I don't know how. That JavaScript exam was horrendous. I don't know how I passed, but I did. And then I got some jobs that were kind of loosely related to data and databases, and I spent the next 10-15 years in IT. So while I was in those jobs, I wasn't really too keen on doing anything creative for a while. The first degree course really just took all my creativeness and threw it away. Eventually I started missing a bit of creativity in my life. As I say, I had been creating hair falls at one point when I was at uni, because I liked to wear them when I went out, and then I thought that could be a business, but it never did turn into a business. But I also made jewellery at one point, which started off as beaded jewellery and then grew to polymer clay jewellery, which was nice because I was making my own beads, so it was all unique. Every piece was unique, but then it obviously took me a lot of time to create one piece, and I couldn't easily upscale the business that way. I was selling on Etsy from 2010, and I kept doing so just by changing what I was selling. So the first thing I sold was the beaded jewellery. Then I went to the polymer clay jewellery, and it just wasn't making me enough money, and it was just sort of a side hustle as well. Eventually my hands began to hurt because I was making the jewellery, rolling the beads and shaping them and things, so it was really tough to do. So I stopped doing that, and my other love, passion is photography. So I decided that I would take photographs of creepy dolls and scary textures and places, or even places that weren't scary, but I would make them scary because that's a whole niche. Everyone loves horror, don't they? So I started selling horror photography, and I would do that on Etsy, and I also took that to craft fairs, which I had done with the beads as well, the polymer clay beads. But there's nothing more disheartening than paying for a table, getting all your stuff set up, this thing that you've made or created, and for no one to buy them. And it really just was not for me. It took up so much time and effort, and I would feel terrible that I'd wasted money on these pitches when there was nothing being made from them. I rarely even broke even with my jewellery or my photography, and it was such a hassle trying to navigate that. So I did the Etsy shop for a little bit longer. As I say, just on the side I was doing IT work full time, and then I switched to greeting cards on Etsy because everyone needs greeting cards, don't they? Of course that's very saturated, but I had to have a bit of a unique spin on it, so it was kind of a cheeky, kind of creepy, like a lot of crossovers in there. But there was greeting cards that were probably the most successful business that I've had so far, and I paired that with affirmation cards, which again were kind of cheeky, kind of sweary, and also I ended up making a bunch of tarot cards and oracle cards, things like that. So there was a whole load of things that shop, Kirsty Rice Art, sort of developed into over the years. But in 2020, of course, it was lockdown, and I gave birth. It was the sort of the day after they decided that they were making lockdown a thing. I went into labour, so I was in the hospital giving birth. My husband was there, but then he was told he wasn't allowed to stay, and me and my son ended up staying in the hospital for a week. And we weren't allowed any visitors, I think, until maybe the 4th or 5th day. And even then, it was my husband came in to see the baby. I had to leave the room. We couldn't be in the same room with him. There couldn't be 3 of us. So that was a whole thing. But after that, I was on maternity leave. I was still designing and packing and shipping these affirmation cards and greeting cards with my son strapped to me in his little wrap. He just wanted to sleep and eat, of course. He was a baby, so he would be strapped to me all the time while I was sitting trying to do some work. And that's not something you can do forever, of course. So I eventually went back to work. My husband was looking after the baby. We decided that at that time I was making more money in my IT job, so I went back to work, and I ended up just really not enjoying it at all. I was really getting to the stage where I really missed the creative pursuits that I had done previously. Even though I still had this business that was part-time, I didn't want to be chopping and changing and trying to fit it in somewhere, trying to use my evenings and weekends to grow the business when I was working full-time doing something I just didn't like. So in 2022, I think it was 2022, I decided to leave my IT job, my well-paid IT job, but it was stressing me out. All the COVID stuff had happened, there was some hybrid working, but not enough. I had to go back to the office, and it was just stressing me out. There was lots of things that was happening that I wasn't keen on, so I decided to leave my full-time job and try and grow my business. And I mean, it did go. It went well for a while, at least. As I say, I was mostly selling the greeting cards and the affirmation cards, mostly by myself. So I have printers, cutters, all the Photoshop and all that software that I needed. So I was doing every part of it by myself. And occasionally, if there was something that turned into like a really good seller, I would get it printed elsewhere so that I didn't have to print on demand every time that someone ordered, and it worked out cheaper. But most of the things, because I had so many listings, so many of the items would only be bought once in a while, so there wasn't any point in me creating lots of stock or more inventory, because another thing about me is that I have so many hobbies that my office where I'm supposed to work is just full of different stuff relating to those hobbies. So I also have my books, and I have my painting and everything that goes along with that. So my paints, my textures, canvases and all the surfaces, as well as the paintings I've already done, all your paint brushes and texture tools, etc. Obviously I have the junk journaling, which we'll get onto soon. So I've got lots of scraps for junk journals. I've got supplies that I've bought, supplies that I've made, texture tools for that as well. Of course I have my laptop and my printer and my Silhouette and my DSLR and all of my lights and backgrounds, because I used to do photography. So of course I've got all of the lenses as well. I've got I made a big list of it at one point. I'll maybe read it out. But just so you know, I have a whole office, which is just like a back bedroom full of lots of different hobbies, lots of different businesses that have grown over the years and have not grown, some of them, but I've still got all the stuff for them because it's things that I actively like to do, although I don't get as much time these days as I would like to. So I went off track a little bit there. I think I was talking about leaving my job. So, yep, I obviously spoke to my husband about it. We figured out how we could go about it, and I decided to do that, and I've never looked back since. And that doesn't mean it's been easy. Obviously, I no longer have the physical shop with the greeting cards. So, what happened with that was I got to a point where during lockdown and the years that followed, people were really buying online, and it went up and up and up, and then it stopped, and then it came down and down and down, that in terms of revenue. So I got to a stage where things were becoming so expensive that people weren't buying greeting cards online, especially not just one, like for a £5 and then paying shipping when you could go to a shop and get 10 for £1 or something. And even though they were unique and different, it just wasn't bringing in the sales that I wanted. I got a bit lost with the direction of the shop as well. I'd also bulk bought a bunch of tarot cards, which were doing really well, but of course when I decided to bulk buy them so that they would be easier to sell and make more money from them, people stopped buying them. So I've got about 3 boxes of tarot card packs, which I don't know what to do with. So if anyone has any ideas, let me know. I've tried listing them on eBay, and they were up on Etsy for the longest time, but I have now shut that shop, Kirsty Rice Art. Well, I think it's technically on vacation mode at the moment, but it's as good as dead to me. And then that's where RockinRainbowDigital came in. So I knew that I didn't want to do anything else physical, because the printing aspect has technical issues, the shipping always has issues. Either it's you don't have the right supplies to ship it with, or you're relying on a courier who isn't doing their job, or someone's lying at the end of the other side when you buy something and then they say it didn't arrive when it did, or they say it's broken or bent or something. So there was a lot of hassle with physical items and having to ship them, as well as having the stock and the inventory of the paper and the ink, etc. So I decided I was going to switch to a digital shop, and I played about with a lot of different things. I, started just on printables like party invites and Father's Day certificates and just a whole mix of different things, and that did okay. I did a few courses to try and figure out how to do that, and obviously I had the previous knowledge of SEO, and I'd been doing Etsy for like 12, 14 years at that point. It's now been 16 years, goodness me. But so I did a lot of work to try and grow the shop, and it was just a little bit all over the place with all the printables. I would try and jump on trends that were coming in, and it never really stuck. So eventually I discovered junk journaling. I knew about scrapbooking from my childhood. I didn't know that junk journaling, scrapbooking and crafts like that were so big, and it really amazed me to see the extent of it and to see the communities. So I just instantly loved it, because when I paint, when I make art, I'm always doing layered art, I'm always doing mixed media. I'm never sitting down with a pot in front of me or a picture trying to replicate it. That's why I love photography, because you can take a picture of something and then it looks the same, and then you can edit it after if you want, but that's beside the point. So I love photography for capturing moments and capturing feelings and capturing things and places. I love art for making something new and different, and the feelings and emotions that go along with it, sparking something in someone who looks at a piece of art. And then just even the intrigue of having different layers, different textures, it's so interesting. And I really like to make art because it's very physical, and it's something that you have forever, of course, unless you sell it, to look back on, remind yourself like you made this. And it's kind of the same with digital art as well. So when I'm making junk journal pages and ephemera and things like that, it'll be something that I've made that I can see. I can't hold it in my hand unless I print it off, but it's still the same sort of feeling. And that's why I really loved this niche, or this whole area of crafting. And because it is digital, because I'm able to create and sell these digital pieces, it makes it so much more accessible. And I mean, that's the goal of this channel, is to make art and creativity more accessible to everyone. I don't want you to have to go to Hobbycraft or Joann's or whatever craft shop you have near you and spend £10, $10 on some sheets of paper that you can use once and then they're gone. I want to be able to provide digital files that are in different niches and different styles, whatever you're looking for, that you can have and use. You can print them out or you can use them digitally, and then you have that file to reuse it as much as you like. So if you want to use it in one journal, you can, and then you can make it into something else and you can use it in a different journal or make something for someone. And just the possibilities are endless with digital files, and that's one thing I really love about being able to provide and sell digital ephemera and pages, especially when you can layer things and you can add things. It doesn't all have to be things you've bought. I do a lot of videos about found textures, junk mail, cardboard, like corrugated cardboard, and different things to make shapes with. And so it's really interesting junk journaling in itself, but the fact that you can make these things digitally and sell them and then the buyer can just print them off is really awesome to me. It feels so much more accessible. It's much more exciting because there's so much range. I don't know if you've been in any craft shops lately, but they'll have their sort of new trends, and if you don't like it, then that's it. There's no alternative. I've seen a lot of peacocks recently and a lot of lemons, and I'm like, that's not what I need. Okay, that is not something I use in my journals, or my art. So I like a lot of textures, a lot of Victorian style, decay, distressed, grunge, and that's what I do mostly in my shop. I like to add in different things now and again. Again, I'm rambling, so sorry. If you're still watching this, then I'm really, really, really impressed, and I love you so much. But yeah, the main goal of the channel is to make creativity accessible, because I want you to create things and feel better. And RockinRainbowDigital was kind of a mix of my son loving rainbows, and also I wanted the vibe to be bright and vibrant and exciting. It just seemed to fit, and it's all coming together obviously with the YouTube channel. I just wanted to make this video to explain to everyone sort of who I am, what I'm all about, and how I ended up with RockinRainbowDigital and this YouTube channel, because it wasn't just an accident. I've been on a whole journey. Like, we're all on different journeys, and you might not realise it at the time, but everything that happens is bringing you to a certain place. It's up to you to connect the dots and make life fun and interesting, and I am trying to help just a little bit by providing all these supplies so you can use them in your junk journaling and your art, and just have fun with it, because it doesn't just help you physically, it helps you mentally, and that's a really big thing for me. Art therapy as well is so eye-opening, and I really hope that I help at least one person with this channel. But it's been great talking to you and telling you my story. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there was anything you didn't understand, please leave a comment below. I think I've covered most of it. But please let me know if there's anything else that you are curious about. And if you want to tell me your story too and how you got to junk journaling, how you discovered it, just let me know in the comments as well. And thank you for listening to me and watching this. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.